Okay, welcome to today's webinar on the Cambridge Master of Accounting program. And welcome to those watching the recording at some time in the future. My name is Michael Willis, and I am the director of the Cambridge Master of Accounting program. And today's agenda, first we're going to start out with why we have the Cambridge Master of Accounting program. And then we'll talk about what the program can do for you. We'll talk about the structure of the program and the format and how that's designed to deliver. We'll talk about our curriculum advisors, who are a team of global industry experts, professionals who continually advise us on how the program might develop and evolve. We'll talk a little bit about our students. We'll talk about next steps in the application process, how to make the decision if this program is right for you, and then what might be the next steps in making an application and how to successfully navigate that process. And then we'll have time at the end for any questions that you might have. Great, so to motivate why we have a Master of Accounting program at Cambridge, I'm just grabbing some headlines. If you're following the news around accounting and financial reporting information, quite a lot has been happening in the last 5 to 10 years. The accounting world is changing very quickly and the rate of change is accelerating. So a few examples of these areas, just sort of ripped from the headlines here. Reporting on climate change risk, accounting will be needed. Measuring climate change is audit's task. Sustainability, we absolutely must wrap our minds around this. ISSB aims to put an end to fragmented sustainability standards. So there's quite a lot of demand on the part of investors, on the part of regulators, creditors, to understand something beyond the financial performance at a company. So we hear the acronym ESG quite a lot today for environmental, social governance aspects that might be used by investors to assess risk and return that might be of concern to other societal stakeholders. Getting quite a lot of attention right now is climate and the amount of information related to firm strategic resilience to climate change. So a very new and different type of disclosure is being demanded in the market. And the very last headline on this slide refers to the ISSB. If you're not familiar with the ISSB, that's the International Sustainability Standards Board, which doesn't sound very exciting. But in the world of accounting, that's a very important development, that there's a global standard setter putting out some standards related to climate reporting and to sustainability more broadly. Okay, so leaders in the accounting space, in the finance space, in organizations, need to understand sustainability, climate, and the reporting and disclosure issues around those. Okay, to another topic. If you just go to, let's say, the FT search engine and you type in the word audit, you're going to get hundreds of results from the last 5 years, and none of them are positive. So there's a sense that the audit function, a key governance mechanism that's designed to enhance our trust in financial statements, is falling short. So here's a few headlines from the audit space. New UK business secretary pledges to target Big Four audit reform. Audit review head calls for urgent reform after Wirecard scandal. You could plug in any scandal in that headline and it would still be true. UK directors face new liability demands under major audit reform. So there are broad societal issues around the financial reporting ecosystem, areas where it seems to be underperforming. How do we understand those? How do we lead through those? How do we lead in an environment where trust has eroded and is very low? And then inside an organization, how do you implement an audit in a way that's healthy and promotes the value of the firm and healthy communication with the stakeholders? This is an important issue for leaders. Many of our students will be involved in audit in some way, not necessarily doing audits, but as CFOs or as chairs of audit committees or board members, and will need to understand the issues around things like audit and governance more broadly. Okay, so more headlines. These related to technology and information, blockchain and the future of accountancy. So we have new technologies coming on. Blockchain's been around for some time, and it potentially has some implications for accounting, for record keeping, and for cryptocurrency. And what does that mean for the accounting world? How about data, the proliferation of big data sets and new analytical tools and a dramatic increase in computing power over the last decade? What do accountants need to know about data? Do we have the right skills to think about data and to lead data analytics processes in our organizations? What about advanced technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning? What do those have to do with the accounting world? And how do we think about leading in that space? So these are examples of the types of issues that leaders in the accounting world need to understand, need to be prepared to lead and innovate in. And this is why we built the Cambridge Master of Accounting, to train students, to give them practical tools to apply to these scenarios that have societal importance. Okay, so the Master of Accounting, a few points that it's very important to understand up front. The Cambridge Master of Accounting program is designed to train decision makers and leaders, not technicians. So the Master of Accounting program is not a pre-experienced technical training, pre-qualification program. It's not designed to lead to an ACCA qualification or a CIMA qualification or a Chartered Accountancy CPA designation. Many of our students have those designations coming into the program, and they find our program complementary to what they've already studied, because we're focusing on the decision-making, the innovation, and the leadership. The program is designed for students who want to change their roles or change the way their current roles function by bringing these tools to bear on what they do. We're a part-time program. We'll say more about the format in a little bit, but the strength of the part-time program is obviously it allows our students to continue working while they do the program. This is a strength from the learning perspective because it allows our students to apply what they've learned very quickly in their roles professionally. And that strengthens the learning process and it allows them to have immediate impact in what they're doing. We've designed the program to support a number of career paths, including the path to accounting consulting firm partnership, the path to a CFO or controller role in an organization, regulatory career paths in financial markets, emerging areas like climate, social related financial disclosures, or public policy roles in finance and accounting. These are examples of the types of career paths that we've designed the program to support and what our students have been doing and have gone on to do. So next, I'd like to give you an overview of what we do. What do we study? What do we teach about? What's the curriculum and how do we deliver on this promise to train leaders and innovators in accounting? So broadly speaking, the curriculum really has three areas focus. One, accounting leadership. And this is practical leadership focus on accounting issues. Again, not the technical study of accounting to train you for a qualification exam. This is a leadership lens on accounting issues. I'll say more about that in a moment. People and organizations. Everything we do is in the context of relationships and groups and teams and organizations. And these need to be harnessed and led for change. So how do we lead change in groups and organizations? And then the third curriculum pillar, data analytics. And what are practical tools that we can apply for improved decision-making through data analytics? So I want to just give some highlights of these curriculum areas. So starting with accounting leadership. So we are covering some topics that might be familiar to you if you have an accounting background, but they're very much focused on strategy, policy, innovation, and leadership. For example, in our strategic performance management module, we talk about how do we optimize measurement and reporting of performance internally to the organization? And how do we align that measurement and reporting strategy to support the strategic objectives of the organization? So this is revisiting ideas around management accounting and reporting, but with very much a strategic focus. In our global financial reporting module, we talk about the most ambiguous, complex areas of financial reporting and what do leaders need to understand? What do CFOs need to understand? What do board audit committee chairs need to understand? Controllers need to understand about financial reporting. And then how can we move into a space of being advocates for improved financial reporting standards? So we go into detail here about the standard setting process, about the political environment in which standards are set. And we're watching this unfold in real time in the sustainability world as well. Our students write a comment letter on our proposed standards to go through this exercise of understanding the motivations for standards and becoming advocates for better standards. Another module related to accounting leadership has to do with sustainability and sustainability reporting. As we mentioned earlier, a dramatically different paradigm around financial reporting is coming in and is being adopted around the world. It's being adopted by companies on a voluntary basis, and it's starting to have a lot of regulatory momentum, and it's likely to be mandatory in a lot of countries in some form very soon. So what do leaders in the accounting space need to understand about sustainability, ESG, measurement, and reporting? And how can we contribute to the development of an ecosystem where we have trustworthy data on climate and sustainability? There's a long way to go from where we're at now to that desired end state of the world. It's important that we understand what's going on and how to lead in that environment. So these are some examples of how we approach accounting topics from a leadership perspective. Another example that's a little bit different is what we call the Critical Issues in Accounting Conference. And this is a core module related to accounting leadership. Essentially, this is a mini conference for our students where we bring in guest speakers from around the world on a particular topic that is chosen by our students. Committee of students chooses the topic, and we work with the students and faculty to select and invite speakers to the conference. So this topic rotates every year. Our first conference in 2019 was related to climate-related financial reporting. The keynote speech was given by Hans Ugervorst, who at the time was the chair of the International Accounting Standards Board. We bring in the global experts on all of these topics. In 2020, the topic was cyber risk, so accounting for cyber risk, and how to think about cyber risk in an organization, how to lead in that environment. We had Alexei Wellman, who was the CFO of Altaba and the former controller at Yahoo during their data breach, who was able to talk about leading through crises like this related to cyber risk and how to sort of strengthen an organization with regard to it. The following year, the topic was SPACs and IPOs. So at that time, SPACs were a really popular way for firms to seek liquidity. And so we brought in experts from the legal area, the regulatory area, from startups who had actually gone through a SPAC and consultants who had led that process to hear from all those perspectives on taking a company public through some route. And then our most recent conference earlier this year was related to blockchain and cryptocurrency. So again, we heard from practitioners in the crypto space, developers in the space, investors in the space, accounting standard setters, regulators to all weigh in on the complex issues around cryptocurrency, how to think about reporting for it, where it might go, the economics and fundamentals behind it, and what's the future of this technology. So this is an opportunity to continually bring in new topics into the curriculum every year based on student interest. And it's a really interesting piece of program. Okay, so moving now into the next sort of curriculum pillar in the Mac program, people and organizations. And I want to highlight a couple of modules in this area. The first is our change management module. So we know that the world is in need of change. We know that organizations are in need of change, teams are in need of change, and we ourselves are in need of change. And so this module brings ideas around psychology, around organizational behavior, around risk management, and around leadership to help us understand how to prepare and implement a change management plan, which involves, again, thorough risk assessment, understanding of the psychology of power and how power is concentrated in an organization, and how change efforts tend to succeed or tend to fail. So we draw on things like power from Jeff Pfeffer, who is a professor at the Stanford Graduate School of Business and one of the global experts on power in organizations. And then Duncan Green, who is senior strategic advisor at Oxfam and also faculty at LSE. So as part of this module, our students not only learn how to develop a change management plan, but for the assessment for this module, they actually go through the process of developing a comprehensive change management plan. And because we're a part-time program, our students are still engaged actively in work and their outside interests. And so we encourage them and give them opportunities to apply what they're learning in what they're doing outside of the program. So this is a video from one of our students, Jose Zappa from Brazil, about his project for his change management module, what he decided to do and what the impact was.
My project is called Formadores de Futuro, which is a social project focused on students, low-income students that lives in favelas in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And 2 years ago, when I joined the Mac program, I had a class called Formadores de Futuro, which focused on students, low-income students that lives in favelas in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And 2 years ago, when I joined the Mac program, I had a class called Change Management, where we were challenged to build up a project of our interest. We had to structure a project or an idea, and the professor gave us like a structure to fill, like an agenda. You should create a schedule of which process are you doing and how you're gonna do, and what are you gonna need, what resources you're gonna need. So by feeling this, at the end of the class, I thought to myself, okay, I have my whole project here, just need to implement it. All of the students come from the favela, which means they usually studied in public schools, and education in public education in Brazil right now is very, very bad. So they wouldn't have a chance to do well in the college entrance exam. So what we do basically is help them to support them in this exam so they can have a chance to get in college. And right now we have like around 70–80% of acceptance rate of our students in college, which is a huge victory for the project. And our students are now coming back as teachers for the project. And beside all that, we are creating a sense of community inside our project. What the program has provided me is much more than that, like being able to create this project and to reach out people and impact their lives, and some behavioral changes on me as well. This is the real result of the program, and I would never thought about this before doing it.
Okay, great. So that's a bit about the change management module. So not just another module in the area of people and organizations is the Interpersonal Dynamics module. This module is really an intense applied laboratory in communications and interpersonal communications. And it involves essentially developing self-awareness and developing an understanding of how our own behavior, our own communication, our own emotions affect and impact a whole system of communication and behaviors. So this includes a lot of introspection, a lot of feedback, a lot of interaction, understanding authenticity, understanding listening, understanding how our own biases play into this interaction. Everything that happens in our organization is a result of interactions between humans. Every number on a financial statement got there from some assumption, some negotiation, some estimation that humans agreed upon. So these relationships infuse everything we do in accounting and in business and in the world. So we ask our students, for example, going into this module, we ask them to rate themselves. How do they think about themselves? on attributes of their own communication and how they feel. Do I interrupt people when they speak? My self-esteem is tied to my status, wealth, or affiliation. So we put them through this self-assessment process to understand how they think about themselves. And then we think about how we ask them to think about how others might perceive them. How do others seem to perceive me when I'm speaking to them? How do they perceive my energy level? Do they seek me out to work with me on projects? So we take this self-assessment, assessment of how we think others feel about us, go through this process, and then again, reflect on what we've learned. So interpersonal dynamics is actually modeled after the ID elective class at the Graduate School of Business at Stanford. And the co-founder of that program and its director for decades, Carol Robin, is one of our curriculum advisors and helped us in developing our version of that program here, which is a required module for all of our students that comes towards the end of the program. It's a really unique experience in interpersonal communication and dynamics. Okay, so we've talked about accounting leadership, we talked about people and organizations. So now I want to turn to data analytics, which is sort of the third curriculum pillar in the Mac program. So what I mean by data analytics is using data and computational techniques to generate and answer relevant questions and to automate or improve tasks and decisions. So I want to give you an example of what the data analytics process might look like, and then a case study in data analytics. So you can think of a data analytics process as beginning with a question that we have. We might want to prove something. Why is something underperforming? How can we improve some desirable attribute in the business, in the organization? So we have some question, and then we get some data to try to answer that question. That may involve data that's around. It may involve gathering our own data. We do some analysis of this data. We interpret the analysis, and then we take an action. Now I've drawn this linear process with nice clean boxes and arrows, but the whole thing is really messy if you've ever tried to do this in your organization, and it's not linear. And sometimes we have data and then we ask the question. And sometimes we start through this process and we realize we asked the wrong question and we have to start over, or we gathered the wrong data and it's useless, or we have the data, but it's so dirty that we can't use it, or we get to the end and we don't know what to do. So lots of pitfalls and lots of complexities in this process that I've represented here with boxes and arrows. But let me give you an example of a very sort of simple, but really effective data analytics process. And it's from the 1800s in London. This is John Snow. He was a physician and one of the sort of the first epidemiologists to study and bring insight to disease at scale. Dr. Snow lived in London, in Soho, and at the time he was practicing medicine, there was a cholera outbreak in Soho, which was a deadly disease, and a number of people were dying in this area. At the time, people believed that cholera was spread through contaminated air. So if there was decaying organic matter, it would release bad air. People breathed it in, they got cholera. That was the belief. Dr. Snow wasn't convinced. So he wanted to get some data on cholera. So he simply went door to door in the Soho area of London, and he interviewed people in every home about the cholera cases that had happened in their home. That's his data set. His analytics technique is a visualization. He drew a map. This is a map of Soho, and each black square here on the map is a cholera case. And you can see sort of in the middle of the map here, there's a little cluster of cholera cases. And the visualization shows that pretty clearly. So this is the analysis. The interpretation is something's going on in the middle of the map here. So the action that was taken was to remove the handle of the water pump. So Dr. Snow went back after noticing this cluster of cases, did a further round of interviews with the people there, found that they had all gotten water from the Broad Street water pump. The action that was taken was to remove the handle of the pump. It was as simple as that, and cholera cases went to zero in Soho. And today, in the neighborhood of Soho in London, there's a pub called the John Snow, named after Dr. Snow, and a monument to his data analytics effort, which is a replica of the Broad Street pump with the handle removed. Okay, so this was a pretty simple analytics technique, but it was very powerful and it literally saved lives. Unfortunately, he didn't convince the world that cholera is spread through contaminated drinking water, which we know to be true today. That took a few more years and some more experimental validation, but it's an example of data analytics in real life. Now, in modern times and in modern organizations, we're going to be thinking about things like, how risky is this loan? Should we lend to this entity? Or maybe we have a set of transactions for the period and we'd like to know if there are any potentially fraudulent transactions. Are there anomalous transactions that we need to investigate? Or maybe we have a problem going on like excessive employee attrition. People are leaving and we'd like to understand the cause so we can manage the cause or causes of the attrition. So to draw on these types of, or to answer these types of questions, we might draw on a number of types of data. We could have transactional data, financial transactional data, which could be fairly well behaved and it's organized in a table and all the data's there. And it comes from a fairly small set of types of transactions. We may have quite a lot of it. We might have non-financial data related to hours, related to customer satisfaction, related to employee satisfaction. We might have survey data if we're trying to uncover some root cause of something. Perhaps we design our own survey to gather our own data. We might have social media data. We might have things, mentions on Twitter or things that we scrape from social media sites. And we may have to merge all of these things and put them all together in some big data set we create ourselves. And it's a sort of unsexy reality of data analytics that the great majority of time in analytics projects is spent on preparing data and cleaning data, getting it ready to analyze, getting it in a format that we can work with. Okay, so once we have a data set, we need to bring some analytical tools to bear on this data. This could be as simple as a map of London or a visualization that doesn't involve mathematics. That involves telling a story with the data or exploring and answering questions with the data. We might bring in more sophisticated techniques like simple hypothesis test. Maybe we wish to compare the means of a sample with a population. Or maybe we move to something more complex like a regression, like we're constructing a causal model of some outcome of interest and we want to know which variables might be driving that. Or maybe we want to use something like machine learning, where we're making a predictive model and we want this algorithm to get better at the prediction as it has new data to train. Or maybe we have, rather than a quantitative tabular data, maybe we have text data or video data. We may want to use natural language processing to try to get meaning out of text or video or images. And then the last box, ACT, there's a big gap between analysis and interpretation and action. And this is a problem that we see in analytics processes throughout organizations, throughout the world. No matter how great the data team is and how sophisticated the analysts are, if leaders and decision makers don't understand the analytics technologies and the strengths and limitations and assumptions and how to interpret these algorithms, they're limited in their ability to use those algorithms to inform decision making. So everything we do is oriented to support the decision and to support the action. So when you think about teaching data analytics, you might think about a spectrum of technical detail. So there are programs that train analytics with less technical detail and programs that train analytics with more technical detail. So on the lower end, you might see things like executive programs, non-degree programs designed for senior leaders that give an overview of analytics technologies and a very high level intuition about what they do. On the more technical side, you might see a master's in data analytics or data science, which is designed to be preparation for full-time data work, which is intense programming and intense data work and SQL and lots of time at a computer writing code. We situate our program in the middle. So we're trying to develop sophisticated managers and consumers of analytics processes, not with the idea that our students are going to go on to full-time data analyst positions, but that they're going to be leading these processes in their organizations and responsible for designing these efforts and interpreting the results and taking action based on those results. So our students learn a little bit of programming in Python. It's not too much programming in Python. We assume zero knowledge of Python going into the program. We recommend that students maybe take an intro course if they have time prior to the program, but we support our students even if they haven't done that, and they're able to write the minimal amount of code they need to implement some of these algorithms. We train our students in Tableau and data visualization so that they can understand how to explore data sets visually and also how to communicate effectively using visuals. We teach about more sophisticated statistics models like regression models, neural networks, and then we cover technologies like automation, blockchain, cryptocurrency. That's our approach to training data analytics. Okay, another piece of the curriculum that's designed to be a sort of applied capstone experience is what we call the team consulting project. And this is towards the end of the program. Our students work in groups. They source a client and a project to work on. It's an external client and they work with a faculty member, a faculty mentor, and they work with the client organization to scope a project and agree on some deliverables and then do some work to answer a question for the clients. So remember the video with Jose a few slides ago from Brazil and his change management project. Later on in the program, he got a group together to do a consulting project for his organization, Formadores de Futuro. And this group did really a comprehensive strategic analysis and strategic plan for this organization to grow. And they did some surveys of students and former students, teachers and former teachers to understand student attrition, student recruiting factors that drove student success, and developed a plan for the growth of the organization. Another client was Wild Philanthropy, just to give you another example. Wild Philanthropy is a group of nonprofit charity, high-end African safari, conservation safaris. Essentially what that means is investing in conservation projects in Africa, generating revenue from wealthy donors who do high-end safaris to Africa to visit these conservation projects and ultimately donate. The idea around this was the company needed some KPIs. So they needed some management expertise on how to construct metrics that supported the organization's goals. So we had a team of students work on that, which involved understanding the organization, interviewing people at the organization, understanding what needed to be managed, and then coming up with some measurements and some reporting framework. So the team consulting project doesn't necessarily have to be related to accounting. It certainly doesn't have to be technical in nature. Many of our students choose projects that are very strategically focused. Others are more implementation focused on technology or around financial reporting. It just depends on what the students themselves are interested in and what the client needs. Okay, so I'll refer you to the website for the detailed description of all our modules and what they look like that you can review on your own time. But beginning with the cohort that begins the program in 2023, so if you applied this year and were admitted, this would apply to you. Our students will be able to take advantage of electives that are listed in the EMBA program as well. So at the Judge Business School, we have the Executive MBA program. And so they have a set of electives and the Mac has a set of electives, and we're jointly offering our electives beginning in, it will be 2025 when that rolls out, but it's the next cohort will be able to take advantage of this. So the traditional Mac electives were things like some more leadership flavored electives like leadership and organization, social innovation, but then some more slightly technical topics, valuation, mergers and acquisitions, tax strategy. And then the EMBA is a larger program, has a large set of electives around leadership, entrepreneurship, digital strategy, digital transformation. So really a broad set of electives that our students can choose from, taking advantage of the available electives from both programs. Our students choose 2 electives from that set to take in one of our residential weeks towards the end of the program. All right, so that's an overview of what our curriculum looks like and how it's different from what you might see in other programs. So what's the program structured like? The format is 2 years. It's a part-time program. It's a post-experience program. So all of our students have some work experience. So our students come to Cambridge for 8 residential weeks across the 2 years. So roughly once per quarter, they visit Cambridge and spend the week here. Those weeks are intensive interactive sessions. We don't focus on lecturing in the classroom. Instead, we focus on discussion and debate, case studies at a strategic policy level. We have college dinners. So Cambridge is made up of 31 colleges, and all of our students are admitted to one of the colleges. And so during the residential week, we usually have a nice college dinner in one of our sort of stately, nice, ornate dining rooms in one of the Cambridge colleges. Sometimes we bring in guest speakers, both into the classroom or into the dinner session, to talk about topics of interest and relevance to our students. We've had the CEO of the ICAW come in to speak to our students. We've had the former global board chair at BWC, the head of mergers and acquisitions at BP, among other guest speakers. And between these residential weeks in Cambridge, our students are engaged in online learning, which could consist of case studies, discussions of case studies, reading articles and discussing the articles. It could be office hours with faculty. It could be working on assessments, working on projects, working on essays for a module assessment as well. So our students are continually engaged in the program over the 2 years. We've designed the program so that students can expect to devote, on average, 5 to 10 hours a week outside of residential weeks to complete the program. And most students have suggested that that's consistent with their experience. So we tried to design it in a way that it can be balanced with everything else you have going on. So we have a team of curriculum advisors that's closely involved in the program, that help us identify interesting case studies, guest speakers that themselves come into to the classroom and speak to our students. Michael Willis, the CEO at ICAW, which is the Institute for Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. This is an example. This is a picture of a college dinner where Michael Willis sat down with our students in Christ College over dinner, and we had a really frank discussion about what's going on in the UK audit space and accounting space. Lots of change coming with audit regulation and the new financial regulation and sustainability disclosures. Really fascinating conversation. Some more curriculum advisors: Steve Voskuil, who's the Chief Financial Officer at Hershey Corporation, the big chocolate candy company out of the US. Carol Robin, I mentioned earlier, who is the co-developer and founder of the Stanford Interpersonal Dynamics program. It's an advisor to our Interpersonal Dynamics module. Greg Rogers, who literally wrote the book on environmental accounting and accounting for environmental liabilities, and is one of the top global consultants in the area of climate reporting and sustainability reporting. Sean Budnick, who was a former head of audit innovation at KPMG and Deloitte in the US. Ben Taylor, who's senior partner in sustainability strategy at EY in London. So these are the examples of people that both advise the curriculum, come into the classroom to speak to our students. Speaking of students, so in our 2022 cohort that we just enrolled, we had 16 students. We expect to grow the cohort in 2023. We'll likely have between 25 and 30 students, but we have capacity to take more. And the students typically have between 6 to 10 years of postgraduate work experience. Some have more. We have students who are much more senior than 10 years of work experience, with students 20, 25 years of work experience. We have students with less than 6 years of work experience. But we're very careful to vet the students on those ends to make sure that they'll be a good fit into the program. It's not necessary that the student have an accounting background to succeed in the Master of Accounting program. We've had students in the past that had no accounting training or little accounting training, and they've been very successful in the program. About 60% of our students have some kind of accounting qualification, and most have some accounting training. But again, it's not necessary. And prior to the program, we provide a little refresher module in accounting for those who may have studied it long ago or have never studied it at all. It really doesn't take too long to get up to speed in the fundamentals of financial reporting. Professionally, students are very diverse. They come from a broad variety of backgrounds, some from more traditional accounting careers like audit, internal audit, tax. We also have people from corporate finance, from consulting, entrepreneurship, law, public policy, regulation, military, and we have a global cohort that comes from all over the world. So most of our students are based outside of the UK, and we have students from every continent and flying into Cambridge for our residential weeks. So it's a truly global cohort, which is one of the key hallmarks of the program. And then again, all of our students are admitted to one of the Cambridge colleges, and there are 31 Cambridge colleges, and some of those admit students from the business school, and students can take advantage of the things that go on at the college when they're in Cambridge, or if they're more local to Cambridge, they can visit the college outside of residential weeks. Very good. So let's talk about the application process and how to think about next steps in the application process. So applicants need to demonstrate academic qualification, and this can be done in a few different ways. One way is if a student has finished an undergraduate degree with at least a 2-1 designation in the UK system or its equivalent in the international system, then that's considered academic qualification. Or if a student has completed a master's degree or a doctoral degree, that demonstrates academic qualification. Or if a student has completed a professional qualification, like an ACCA qualification or chartered accountancy or CPA or a CIMA qualification, many of those are considered to be equivalent to a master's degree and can satisfy academic qualification. Sorry, was there a question? Okay, sorry. And then in some cases, when a student may not have completed an undergraduate with a 2-1 or does not have a master's degree or a professional qualification, they might need to take the GMAT or the executive assessment and reach a threshold score in that regard. So these are the ways in which an applicant can demonstrate academic qualification. Okay, we look at work experience. So the nature of the work experience is not important. The function of the work experience is not necessarily important. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be an accountant to do this program or have a strong accounting background. What we are looking for is evidence of your impact and what you've done and what you've accomplished in your work experience. We ask for 2 references, and ideally those references can speak to your impact that you've had in your work and your potential for impact going forward. The title of the recommender and the position of the recommender and the level of seniority of the recommender is not nearly as important as the degree to which the recommender knows you and can speak to your impact. Applicants need to demonstrate English proficiency. And this is either done through nationality or it's done through having completed a degree program taught in English in recent years, or through taking the IELTS or TOEFL or an equivalent English assessment. And I'll refer you to the website for details of demonstrating English proficiency, and also let you know how to get more information about your individual case in a moment. Essays. So we have 2 essays in the application, and both of these essays have to do with change. And they're designed to give you an opportunity to tell us how you think about change and how you have approached change in your career and your experiences with change. So we're trying to get a sense of your mindset and attitudes towards change through the essays. Now, the most important thing about an essay, sometimes people ask me, how do I write a good application essay? The best essay is authentic, and it reveals who you really are, and ideally reveals your emotional connection with what you're doing. If you're writing about that topic in that way, it's going to tell us who you are, and it's going to be the most effective essay. And then after we receive an application with the references and the essays, selected students are invited to interview with me. The interview lasts 30 minutes. It's done via Zoom. It's not a technical interview. It's a conversation about your application, about your essays, about your experience, about how the program might support your career goals and your interests, and how you can contribute to the development of the Cambridge Master Accounting community. That's the type of discussion that we have in our interview. Okay, so to engage with the program further, so to understand if this is the right program for you and to get questions you might have answered about your own situation and how to make an application, here's what I recommend. So one way to engage with us is to go on our homepage and to book what we call a profile review. Essentially, that's submitting your CV to us, which we'll review, and then we'll get back to you with advice on applying to the program, or we can follow up with a 30-minute call to discuss your particular situation, to discuss how the program might fit with your interests and goals, and to answer any questions you might have about your particular situation with regard to work experience or English language or things like this. So that's a really good way to engage with us. Your CV doesn't have to be perfect. It's designed to give us a quick way to get to know you, to facilitate a conversation in the brief time we have. Another way to engage us, of course, is through our ongoing events, and you know where to find those. They're on our events page on our website. So we have a few webinars going on in the next few months. An event in London. We have an alumni panel, virtual alumni panel coming up. We have a taster day in December, which is an opportunity to come to Cambridge, to attend a class in person, to physically be here, to meet our students, have lunch with the students, meet some of the faculty, and hear from our students what the program is like, and get some more information and see what it feels like to be in Cambridge and be a Master of Accounting student for a day. So that's how I'd recommend engaging further in the process of making an application. And then you can contact me as well. My email address is here. It's also on the website with any questions you might have. Okay, so we have a few minutes left for any questions. You can feel free to type those in the chat, or actually, let's do that. Let's just type questions in the chat if you have any. I see a question here. How long has the program been running? Very good. So the program launched in 2018. That was our first intake of students. So relatively new program, which is why we spend quite a lot of time speaking with candidates individually via profile reviews, because it is new, because it is unique relative to anything else on the market. Let's see. I mentioned another video that I often find myself talking someone out of applying to the program. I wouldn't say it's often that I talk someone out of the program, but sometimes that's a great question, Robert. So sometimes I meet a potential applicant, or I meet a potential applicant just to learn more about their background and answer questions they might have about the program, and they have a career path that might be better served with another program. That's essentially the idea. So if someone were to tell me, I really want to be an equity analyst at JP Morgan in London. Well, there's a lot of content in our program that would support that career outcome, but we have a Master of Finance program that's sort of optimized to pipeline people into London financial services careers. Or someone might say, I want to do a PhD in accounting. Well, we actually do have some content that could support that transition. We have an elective in academic accounting research that some students have taken, and actually I've gone on to a PhD. But there might be a better, more efficient way to get you to that career goal than doing our program, and that's all highly contextual and really depends on someone's interests and motivations. I hope that helps understand the question. Again, it really is just a contextual thing depending on what career goal is there and how to get you there. And we want We want students that we can support in their career journey. All right, next, I hope that answered your question, Robert. Please feel free to follow up if there's anything else on that. Seb asked a question, it's approximate price tag. It's around £49,000 over the 2 years. That's the total fee for the program, and that doesn't include travel costs and accommodations in Cambridge. We have a limited number of scholarships and bursaries to support students. There are a few that are listed for students with different career backgrounds and interests and demographics. Those are on our website. We also have needs-based bursaries available to help defray some of the cost of attendance. Question, is there a full-time Mac program? So no, there isn't currently a full-time Mac program. It's only in a part-time format. We may potentially offer some someday, but we don't have plans in the near term to offer a full-time version of the Mac program. Which is, there's a trade-off there, of course, right? The full-time programs allow someone to take a clean break from their career, to leave it behind and to do sort of a big career change. And also the full-time program offers access to a student visa that allows someone to work full-time in the UK after the program. The part-time program is designed for people who want to continue working. And most of our students tend to be broadly happy in sort of the space they're in. They're not looking for a big career change and a clean break. They're looking for acceleration on their career path. They're looking for broadening. They're looking for something that's going to prepare them for their next level and accelerate that coming. Okay. Very good. Those are excellent questions. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, question from William. Just to be clear, if I have ACCA qualification, I'm not required to take the GMAT as an entry requirement, right? Generally speaking, no. Most applicants who have an ACCA qualification are not required to take the GMAT. Most of our students are not required to take the GMAT. It's really exceptional cases that are required to take the GMAT. So the answer is almost certainly no. But again, I'm happy to connect for a profile review at some point to discuss, anyone's particular situation. Yes, the recording of the meeting will be shared with those who attended and those who didn't. All right, any other questions? Okay, great. Hopefully that was helpful in helping you understand what the Cambridge Macc is about and give you some opportunities to learn more information if you're interested. So thanks for your attendance today. It's great seeing you all. Hope to see you again in the future.
Thank you. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.